Hello. Welcome to the National Council on Family Relations webcast, Preparing Bachelor's and Master's Students to Advance Their Careers in Family Science. My name is Dawn Cassidy. I'm the Director of Family Life Education for NCFR, and I'm here with Maddie Hanson, Education and Certification Coordinator, who is providing technical support. Today's webinar is being presented by Dr. Erica Jordan, and I'll introduce you to her in just a moment. First, I want to start with a few housekeeping issues. There will be time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can enter your questions into the chat box in the lower left corner of the screen at any time during at any time during the webinar. We do have a pretty big group today, so I'm not sure that we'll be able to get to all of your questions, but fortunately Dr. Jordan has offered to field questions after the webinar. If you want to contact her, you can send a question to her through the website drericajordan.com. So that was very kind of her to help us out. But hopefully we'll get to everybody's questions, and you can just type them into the box in the lower left corner. And I see that Maddie's, just added Erica's address or URL, so you can get that from there. The webinar has been approved for continuing education credit for the Certified Family Life Educator program. So if you're interested in receiving a verification certificate, you can contact Maddie Hanson. Her email is Maddie Hanson, Hansen, Maddie Hanson at ncfr.org, and you can share with her the keyword that we'll present at the end of the webinar, and we'll share this her email address again as well. The webinar is being recorded, and you will receive an archived recording approximately 3 days following the webinar. Okay, so let's get started. Dr. Erica Jordan is a CFLE and a clinical assistant professor of human development and family studies in the Department of Psychological Health and Learning Sciences at the University of Houston. Dr. Jordan is primarily engaged in undergraduate instruction and regularly teaches courses in development of contemporary families, parent-child relationships, and careers in human services. She's passionate about professional development for family science students, often presenting on topics related to undergraduate career development and maintaining the hdfscareers.com blog. She serves as a board member and the webmaster for the Texas Council on Family Relations, is a member of the Advancing Family Science section of NCFR, and the Secretary-Treasurer for the NCFR's Family Policy section of NCFR. So it appears that we're in good hands today, and Dr. Jordan certainly knows what she will be talking about, has a lot of experience in that. So we're very appreciative of her willingness to share her time and expertise with us. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me? Hopefully everyone's able to hear me.
I can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dawn. I'm so excited to be here talking about one of my favorite topics. Right after family science in general, this is probably my favorite topic. It's professional development for students. So without further ado, I'll just give you an overview of the information that I'll provide today. First, I'll just provide you with some practical tips for career advancement focused on undergraduate students, graduate students, as well as faculty who want to mentor them. This information is based on a recent NCFR presentation that I gave along with the help of a colleague at the 2017 meeting. Also, my experience in teaching courses for HDFS students and mentoring undergraduate and graduate students, and just my personal experience navigating the job market, which can be pretty wild to navigate. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks so much to everyone for attending. So we have two basic questions that we'll address. What are the career options available to family science students, and how can you seek out jobs and other opportunities like internships or shadowing experiences, things like that. We'll talk about all of that. We'll start with a quick little poll. If you happen to be a student or if you happen to be someone who's considering changing careers, do you already know what specific career you want? You can go ahead and use your device to submit a response. We'll give you a few seconds to do that. See, about half of you have been able to submit so far. Maybe I'll give you another 10 seconds. Okay, looks like, well, we'll go ahead and close the poll now. Okay, so it looks like some of you, the majority of you, are saying maybe, you kind of have an idea. Then we have about 1 in 3 who are saying, yes, I'm definitely set on one specific job, and then a few who are like, I have no clue. I just, need to know all the options. Regardless of where you are, I think there is plenty in this presentation to help you. If you're set on one specific job, certainly there's going to be a lot of information here in terms of how to seek out opportunities within that job and market yourself for that job. If you have kind of an idea, or if you don't have any clue, I'll definitely try to provide an overview as best as I can of some of the many myriad of opportunities out there within our field. So there are lots of different options within the field of family science, or related to the field of family science. These are just kind of a few categories to think about, a few areas of practice to consider. So my colleague and I, for our 2017 NCFR presentation, we had conducted a research study looking at job announcements, basically engaging in a content analysis of job announcements in our particular area that were related to families. And we based these categories on Walker and Blakey-Meyer's 2013 study of HDFS alumni. A really great paper. I encourage you to read it. And we found similar findings. We found that there are a broad array of opportunities in different areas of practice. So these are just a few that you can consider. Some might jump out to you. You can return to this webinar later and kind of investigate all of the different categories more. And again, I would encourage you also to take a look at that paper. But these are just some ideas to get you thinking. In terms of where you can actually work within the field, certainly you have nonprofit agencies that provide lots of different experiences. They employ, just for a few examples, child and family advocates, parent and family educators, family resource centers tend to employ people in a variety of staff positions. They have opportunities in program coordination or program directors. Any sort of faith-based programs would also fall under nonprofits. Research and program evaluation is sometimes needed, especially in the area of program evaluation, to ensure that programs being delivered by nonprofits are effective. So that's an opportunity if you're interested in research. Translational work, sort of communicating and educating to the public, is you can sometimes find opportunities in nonprofits. And a whole other host of jobs that indirectly benefit families. So you might not be delivering the service to the family yourself, but you are working on behalf of the organization and that's serving families. That helps because not everybody wants to work directly with families for their entire career or at all. But you can still be using your knowledge to benefit families and ensure that you all are providing the best services possible. So there are lots of different nonprofit agencies, and we don't really have time to go into all of them. But I will explain some exploration tools to help you find those in your area. Also, businesses. So one large business is the healthcare industry in our particular area down here in Houston, Texas, where I work. There are family support and program and patient coordination positions where your expertise could be useful. Also, sometimes research and development related to children and families. In just the general business world, so not just healthcare, just everywhere. Market research, also in the general business community. I actually worked for a couple of market research firms, and I really enjoyed my work there. I think I love what I do now, but I would probably be just as happy working there as well. And I often got to work with kids and families as well in that role. Research analysts and research scientists, again, if you're interested in research, sales and marketing related to families, so related to services for children, for families, or for senior citizens. Your expertise can be applied there. Senior services like activities coordination, also employee assistance programs, many large businesses offer employee assistance programs, which serve their employees and often those employees' families as well. So that's another great opportunity. The federal government also employs some staff people related to family support services. They also employ counselors or psychologists if you're interested in pursuing a graduate degree in those areas. Local government and municipalities, they also often will employ family support service staff positions or some sort of community or neighborhood programming staff members, so there are opportunities there as well. In education, we have extension services, parent education, family support, early childhood education, child care training, even child care assessment. So there are lots of opportunities within the field of education, beginning with early childhood and going all the way up to higher education. Within higher education, you have a lot of opportunities within the field of, within the area of student affairs, where you're working directly to support students or directly to support students and their families who are transitioning into that college environment. And then also, if you've never looked into extension services as well, I would just encourage you to check out extension offerings at your local land-grant university. They also have some really cool positions. So these are just a few ideas for where you can work. As you see, the short answer would be the options are endless. So we are not in a major or a field where there's just one direct path. There really aren't actually that many fields like that anyway. But we're certainly not one of those majors, and we're in good company. Most majors are not that way. We're very interdisciplinary. That's great because we're a more interdisciplinary world. As every day goes on, you have to work with people in other fields. But this means that we have to be prepared to take the responsibility to explore our options. We have to take responsibility to seek out opportunities and then market ourselves effectively to let people know what our background is and how we can be of service to a particular organization and to the families in which they serve. So there's a little bit more legwork that's required on our part, and that's okay. I'm going to overview the exploration process next. So we'll just take these step by step. The first step that I would recommend is beginning with you. So start by taking some time to think about and reflect on your own personal goals and values for your life. You know, what are your goals for your personal life? What are your goals for your professional life? This needs to be as basic as where do you want to live? Because if you have strong opinions about that, as we're going to see, that might make a difference. How much free time do you want? How much flex time do you want? What standard of living or what salary can you be comfortable with? You know, is it important that you feel really directly connected to your work in a meaningful way? Or are you one of the people who can just kind of do the job, and even if it's, you know, you don't feel a deep connection every single day, you're okay with that? Like, these are things that you want to be sure that you answer realistically and honestly for yourself. There's no right or wrong answer, but you just want to be clear about what your values are and your goals are for your personal and professional life. I would recommend completing a value sort. They have both personal and professional value sorts that are readily available on the internet. Over the next few days, I'll try to remember to post some on my website just so that those are available. But I would do that because you can't focus on everything, and this helps you to cull down to what is most important to you. Next, I would recommend being open. You certainly want to keep an open mind with regards to opportunities so that you don't overlook anything. Try to resist limiting statements like, oh, I would never want to work in the business world, ever, you know. Well, if you've never worked in the business world, or maybe you've only worked for one terrible business, you know, you don't really know all of the opportunities that might be available. You know, you might be overlooking opportunities to support families through employee assistance programs or through on-site child care programs or through developing products and services that could allow families to go about their daily lives better. So, you know, just try to resist limiting statements unless you're absolutely sure it's a non-negotiable. Also, consider the geographic location, which I touched on a second ago. If you are certain that you want to live in a specific location, a specific city or a specific state, then you might want to be a little bit more flexible in terms of the jobs in which you consider. If you are dead set on pursuing one specific job, you're going to probably need to be a little bit more flexible in terms of where you're going to live. And this can change throughout your career. Early in my career, I was dead set on I wanted one specific job, and so I moved different states, in order to pursue that line of work. Now, where I am, I really love my job. I really love the city that I live in. If I, for some reason, let's hope not, but for some reason, if I ever lost my job, I would probably still be looking to stay in this area. So then I would need to be more flexible in terms of the type of work that I'd want to do. So just keep that in mind. That's a really important factor in terms of planning effectively. Sometimes also jobs are not what they seem to be based on the job title. So you might have, job titles like lifestyle director, wraparound coordinator, resident advisor. These can mean vastly different things based on where you're working. For instance, resident advisor, you might be thinking, oh, that's a person who works in a college dorm. No. It could be a person who works in a senior services facility providing activities, social activities, and development activities for the population who lives there. So don't judge a book by a cover, or don't judge a job announcement by the job title, because they vary vastly. And this is one of the things that makes it so difficult to say, oh, family science professionals do X, or family science professionals do Y. They can do many different things, and to complicate matters further, their jobs might vary based on the job title, based on where they work. So definitely be open in that way. You want to also take easy first steps after that. So kind of explore broad career paths. If you are in the sort of maybe category on our poll, and you kind of have a general idea, take that general idea and run with it with exploration. So talk to your faculty members, your mentors, fellow students about potential career options. You can say, I know I want to work with kids directly, but I'm going to highly recommend, and this is coming from a faculty member, and I love faculty, but I'm going to highly recommend that you do not let your conversation stop with faculty members. Often we have taken a very specific career path, and to be quite honest, a lot of us don't know a lot about other options outside of academia. So you also need to be talking to other people, which I'll talk about in detail later. But that's a good first step. Then also review the NCFR's Careers in Family Science book. It's online, available for free at that website and at family.science. Seek out helpful articles such as the one on HDFS alumni. Seek out lists in certain textbooks. So I know in Human Development and Family Studies, HDFS, or in Family Science more broadly, I can't think of one particular textbook that lists a lot of specific job titles to investigate, but in our close relative family consumer sciences, there is a textbook that in just about every chapter, it has a list of, again, kind of specific job titles. Again, job titles might vary, but this is a good place to start. You can start to explore using some of the search tools that I'll talk about later based on these job titles. This textbook might be available through your library or through interlibrary loan, or maybe you can get a cheaper, older edition from Amazon. Also use social media such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to explore what family science professionals in your area might be doing. Also to explore organizations that work with families. I'm going to assume that a lot of people know how to at least use like Facebook. And maybe if you play around a lot of people are probably also familiar with Instagram. Twitter, maybe if you're not familiar, you can kind of play around with it. It can be good for keeping up with specific organizations that you might be interested in working for in the future, and just sort of seeing what they're up to, join in their conversation if they're having a relevant conversation. But I'm going to focus my attention for a minute or so on LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn here, we have, you can use this as a valuable tool. I will be honest, at first when LinkedIn came out, I thought, what is this? What is going on? They automatically populated you. I didn't like it as much at first, but I've come to really love LinkedIn because it allows you to seek out people who maybe have the same degree as you, who are living in your area, and you can see what they're up to now, or organizations who work with families, or organizations that serve families in the area in which you're interested. So it can be a really powerful tool if you know how to use it. Now that I've taken some time to learn it, I realize the power. And I've actually used this to seek out just about all of my guest speakers for my Careers in Human Services class. And I've been able to find our HDFS alumni who live in the Houston area and bring them back, and they can tell my students about what they're doing. And, you know, me and my teaching assistant basically just scoured LinkedIn in order to find these people because I didn't know them. I'm relatively new to Houston. First, though, you want to be sure that your own professional profile looks professional, okay? So be sure that your own LinkedIn profile is presentable. You want a picture up there, make sure it's a professional looking picture. You want some of your basic information filled out. Be sure that you don't have a lot of grammatical errors. So just be sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Then you can use the search tool, as you can see in this screenshot, to find. I was looking for human development and family studies majors. So I typed in human development and family studies, Houston, Texas, and I just went for the search and just looked at who I came up with. And I waded through people and saw that people had some pretty interesting jobs that they were working in, and then asked them to come speak in my class. So this is a screenshot from my own search. You can use it in whatever way benefits you. If you're looking for a specific profession, then that's even better. You can, type in that specific job title and see what comes up in your area. So I would recommend that you do that. Okay, now for another poll. So how many people, not including family members or friends, have you interviewed about their work this year? Okay, so go ahead and take some time to respond, particularly if you're a student or somebody who's interested in changing careers. How many people, not including family members or friends, have you interviewed about their work this year? Okay, it looks like most people are done responding. I'll give it another 3 seconds maybe for the last to come in. Okay, now I'll close the poll. Okay, looks like the majority of us, 0. Then we have some who've interviewed 1 or 2. Then we have several who've interviewed 3 or more, that's great. I'm going to encourage you in this next step. It is probably one of my biggest pieces of advice, is to dig deeper by taking the initiative to contact people who are engaged in work that sounds interesting to you. It doesn't have to be necessarily your dream job, but if it should be related to something that you think you might be interested in doing in the future. This can be a scary thing to do, but I think it's really important. So first, in addition to reviewing the job announcements and qualifications, you can, again, use LinkedIn to just set up a time to say, hey, I saw that you're engaged in in X, Y, Z type of work. I'm a student at blah, 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 university. People love to talk to university students, so definitely use that if you happen to be a student. Would you mind if meeting me for coffee? Try to meet them in a public location, but bring a list of prepared questions and just sit and talk with them about what they do and how they got where they are. Often it seems like people have taken a very straight path. Usually they've taken a very curvy path to get where they are, and it's just interesting to hear their stories. If you need ideas about what types of questions to ask, a book that I like to recommend is Road Trip Nation, A Guide to Discovering Your Path in Life. I read it in college. I used some of the material to create assignments for my own students in my careers in human services class. So they have some great questions to consider posing to the people in sort of the back section of that book. So it's available widely and cheaply on the internet and at bookstores. So I would highly encourage you to do this. For some students and some people who are looking to change careers, this is the scariest strategy, but I also believe this is one of the most productive. This is the best way in which you learn. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people, they just know about what they do. Faculty members included, we know the most about faculty life, but not everybody wants to or is going to be able to go into faculty positions or research positions. So it's really important to get out there and get off campus and talk to other people in the world about what they do. We tend to hear about maybe 5 types of popular jobs in the world. We grow up hearing about like doctor, lawyer, teacher, but the vast majority of the population is engaged in a whole variety of different types of work that we have no clue about unless we talk to them. So really use social media to connect with people who you don't know. If you're a little scared, you can start with the people that you do know, but I would ask them for recommendations about other people who do work related to something that you're interested in. And I would certainly use social media tools like LinkedIn to reach out to strangers. And it's easiest to do it when you're a student because you just say that you're a student and, some faculty member told you to, if you feel like you need a reason. But I would really encourage you to do that. I think that it's the most important tool. I've had students get internships and jobs as a result of reaching out to people. So don't overlook that. Okay, going back up to job announcements, and I'm going to give you some specific websites to search for jobs. But don't be discouraged if a job announcement does not list your specific major. Don't worry about that at all. Most job announcements do not list a specific major. Some of them list a recommended major, but don't worry about that. Actually, they're more interested in your experience most of the time. So don't be discouraged with that. Also, if you do make connections through networking events or clubs or professional groups or through cold calling and interviewing people in a public location that's safe, ask if you can shadow the person if you feel comfortable with them for a day or half a day. This can be really helpful. I had one of my students who I mentor. She did a shadowing experience for a week, and it let her know she definitely did not want to do that type of work. So now we can exit off the list. She was trying to choose between a few different career paths, and that shadowing experience helped her to know she absolutely didn't want to do that one. So it can either confirm that you want to pursue the same path, or it can help you to take something else off your list. So certainly, again, you want to shadow. Be sure that you're going to be shadowing them in like a public location, a public business, or arena where you feel safe. And then the last step is just be willing to take the time. So I know a lot of this sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. However, I truly believe, I know that it pays off when you feel like you have a direction and a focus to shoot for. The first thing you read about, the first job opportunity that you learn about might not be the perfect thing. It probably won't be the perfect thing, but it still helps you to hone in on a focus. So I would really encourage you to take the time now with the exploration process to avoid spinning your wheels later. Okay, so how can you actually seek out these job opportunities or internships? I've been talking all about how it's important to do it and the value, but in terms of practical tools, I will get into that now. The first is to engage in your relationships. So talk to people face to face if possible. If you're on the job market, or if you will be soon on the job market, sort of resist the urge to keep it a secret. Sometimes I see people struggle with this. It's almost like, I don't know, maybe they feel a little embarrassed or a little ashamed that they're looking for jobs, or that it's taking them a little while longer to find a job. I'm going to encourage you to resist that. Let people know what type of opportunities you're seeking out, because they can really be your greatest resource. You know, people know other people who are engaged in work that you have not heard of, or they are engaged in work related to families with organizations that you might not be familiar with. So you just never know who someone knows. So talk to people and let people know what you're looking for. Also be aware of your speech, dress, and your behavior, obviously, especially in professional settings, really anywhere. Be yourself. I'm not saying don't be who you are, but definitely be the version of yourself that you would take to your ideal job. Be genuine when you're getting to know people. If you're at a networking event, or even if you're just meeting someone randomly on a trip to the grocery store, don't simply get to know people who you automatically assume can help you. Really try to genuinely get to know who they are and avoid kind of a salesy kind of, salesy pitch to try and get somebody to give you a job. Try and really get to know who they are, help them to know who you truly are and what types of opportunities you're looking for. It really pays to talk to people. Just a brief story from when I was a student. I was working at a bookstore. Somebody came in to make a delivery. I mean, for all I knew, this could have been just the delivery person. Nothing's wrong with being a delivery person, but I had no clue until I was talking to the person. Later on in our conversation, I realized he was the editor of a local magazine, and I needed an internship, and I was in that field at that time. I had this dream that I want to work for Parents Magazine, but I ended up shifting that. But anyway, I was very interested in potentially working for a magazine, and so I talked to him about the possibility of an internship, and he ended up connecting me with his associate editor, and I had an internship a few months later. So you just never know who you're talking to, and so you just want to be genuine and kind with everyone who you meet. Then research and cold email people. So sometimes this helps. I did this a lot as a college student and as a grad student even. My god sister, I remember, she was really interested in the field of mental health. She wanted a summer internship, so she just literally looked through the phone book and called people until somebody agreed to give her an internship or agreed to meet with her. We would do this sort of thing a lot, actually, and sometimes it pays off. I guess now you wouldn't be going through a paper phone book, you'd be on the internet, but same concept. So you can search for businesses, organizations, or et cetera, that seem to be doing work that you're interested in. Be sure that you do your research beforehand, okay? So you want to make it clear that you're genuinely interested in the organization or any potential volunteer or job opportunity before you contact them. So you don't want to be asking questions that you could have easily found the answer to yourself on the website, questions you should really know the answer to. So do your research so that you can ask good questions when you call them up, and it's really clear that you know what you're talking about, you know what they do, you're very excited about it, and you want to know if there are any opportunities for you to join them in their work. Ask if they anticipate any upcoming opportunities, such as jobs, and if they would mind if you sent them your resume or CV. Of course, be sure that you have your resume or CV in good shape before you make this call so that you can send it out closely afterward. Sometimes you can just walk in. I know this is a very bold strategy, but sometimes, you can visit an organization and it can pay off. Again, do your research beforehand. Explain why you're stopping in. Explain that you're interested in what they do. I've done this a lot, actually. But the most important thing that you want to do is be sensitive to the goals of the people at that organization. This does not work well for some organizations. So you have to kind of try to familiarize yourself with the culture of the organization as well. But other organizations, it'll work fine for. The most important thing to remember, though, is when you stop into a business or organization, remember that you are not their first priority that day. Be prepared to wait. Be prepared to ask if you can come back at another time that's better for them. I've seen this go badly twice recently when I just happened to be at a business and people just stop in and think they're going to stop the manager completely from what they're doing. So you don't want to have that kind of entitled attitude. But you do want to have the attitude of somebody who's really interested in what this organization does. You're interested in learning more. You want to know if you can set up an opportunity to speak with them in the future. I did this. I was determined to work with youth in a rural area of Alabama during one summer. I was just determined to get a job or an internship somehow. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I got in the car one day, drove a few hours to this town, went to the city hall, found someone. I let them know, hey, this is the type of thing I'm interested in doing for the summer. They gave me the name of 2 people at local colleges. One person, didn't have any opportunities, but the second person at the next college, they did have opportunities. They gave me the name of a nonprofit in town who was doing some work related to what I was interested in that I'd heard nothing about. So I stopped by the nonprofit. The director happened to be there. He happened to have free time, talked to me, told me to apply. I got the internship. It was a paid internship. And he happened to know about a retired school teacher in town who provided me with basically free room and board for the summer. So I had a paid internship, free room and board, just from stopping in, kind of walking into an organization. So you never know. Sometimes this can really work out, but you just want to be sure that you do your homework and also be sure that you have the right attitude when you go in. Next, you want to be sure to use your online social networking. So follow organizations or businesses that interest you on social media, that are related. And you'll also get recommendations after you start following some organizations. Those algorithms on social media will recommend other organizations or businesses that are similar. So you might want to connect with those as well. If you're interested in a specific organization, visit that organization's LinkedIn page, or you can also see who works there. You can maybe potentially reach out to people who currently work there, who are engaged in work that is similar to what you might like to do, and kind of ask them about what they do and ask if they know of any upcoming opportunities. Sometimes you can message people within the organization and ask if you can contact them to learn more. Remember, though, that you need to be sure that your own profile looks professional. Otherwise, this is just going to be a turnoff to anybody who you contact. Then search for online job postings. So, and I have a few tools that you can use. Google, first of all, has just become a very powerful tool. I've used Google to find one of my jobs. I think I was just, searching for faculty position, child development, and then specific state I wanted to live in. And some universities popped up. So sometimes you can do that. Search for something like Activities Coordinator, Houston, Texas, and just see what pops up. Chances are there will be at least a few organizations or businesses that pop up that you have not heard of. So this at least gives you something more to investigate. Also, you have websites that are specifically designed for searches. Idealist.org has always been one of my favorites. It works best if you're in a larger city, but even when I've lived in a smaller city, you can get an idea about what types of jobs are at nonprofit organizations. So they really focus on nonprofit and charity organizations. So you can at least get an idea about the types of positions, the types of job titles that you commonly see there, and then you can go to your state or local nonprofit agencies or businesses and see if there are similar positions or similar job titles. So it can be a good launch point, even if you're not in a major city. Indeed is another just general, no matter where you live. It searches the whole internet and pulls things. You can also create a profile, and based on your search terms, it'll send you new job announcements, every day or as often as they come up. Simply Hired is another good one. Glassdoor is helpful. so it can provide you information about like the company's culture or its average salary. So that can be a good one too. Higher ed jobs is particularly useful if you think you might be interested in working in like student services or family services with a university setting or a college setting. So they have more than just faculty jobs. Obviously, they have faculty jobs, that goes without saying. But if you're not interested in being a faculty member, they're going to have, hundreds or thousands of other jobs that are also available within the university systems. USAjobs.gov is a good one for federal jobs. Again, some of these federal agencies in the military also sometimes employ positions related to families. And then your state or your individual municipality's government website. So whatever city you live in might have a job website. Whatever state you live in might have a jobs website. So you can check those out as well. Professional development organizations such as NCFR's career site or any other organization that you happen to be a member of, sometimes those are helpful as well. Also, sometimes it helps to just go straight to the source. So you can go to, if you know that there's a company that you're very interested in, and I had a few of these, earlier on in my career, and I would just routinely check their website. Some places will announce a job on a search engine faster, or job board faster. Some organizations will post it on their own website first. And so it helps to kind of be familiar with their website, check it out every now and then. Usually you can find information about job opportunities in either the Human Resources section, the About Us or Join Us section, or obviously the Employment, Jobs, Career section if they have it clearly labeled. Okay, now moving on. Now that you know how to explore opportunities and you have some specific strategies for doing so, we're going to talk about how you can market yourself so that you can be in the best position to put your best foot forward for a particular opportunity. First, again, we're going to start with you. Just like in the exploration process, I think the first step should, again, be with you. Consider your own story, like why you actually want to work in this field. It probably shouldn't be, I've always wanted to be blank since I was a child. You probably want to go a little bit deeper than that. And, really consider why you're so committed to doing the type of work that you want to do. I would recommend completing a skills assessment as well. So that's the skills piece in addition to kind of the why you want to do what you want to do. What skills do you have to do it? Skills assessments are readily available on the internet. If you contact me, I can send you the one that I think I used 2 in my careers class. But you want to be honest with yourself about your strengths. Be realistic with yourself. Like, what are you good at? What are you unfamiliar with but maybe willing to learn? What do you absolutely hate doing? So you'll have at least 3 categories like that. Take the time also to deeply consider the types of experiences that you've had during your university or your other professional years. So I would recommend using a kind of backup system. So even now, I kind of have a Google Drive document that I dump all of my workshops or if I get a certification, or I get an award, I just dump it into this Google Drive so that when I go back to update my resume or CV, I have it. You do not want to rely solely on your resume or CV to be your sole record. The reason for this is depending on where you're applying, they don't want more than a 1, maybe a 2-page resume. And so you obviously can't put all of your experiences on that document. You need a master document that you can pull from and that you can, use certain experiences to tailor specific resumes for specific experiences. And there might be something that you don't even think it's relevant today. Put it on your master document anyway. Put it on your Google Drive because you never know. A few years later, there might be a job that you're interested in, and lo and behold, you didn't think that this one experience would be useful, but turns out it is somehow related to this job that you're now interested in. So you want to be able to keep a record, and you're not going to be able to remember it all if you don't keep a record that you can see. Be sure that you back it up often so it doesn't get lost. And if you don't have one of these now, I would recommend that you create it retroactively the best you can. Go back to your calendar, your phone, anything that you use to set appointments so that you can be as specific and as detailed as possible about your past experiences, your past work experiences, training experiences, workshops, seminars, all of that, volunteer experiences as well. Related to that, you want to be sure that you obtain quality experiences. So if you feel like there's a broad area that you're interested in, try and get experience that's as closely related as you can. It doesn't have to be exactly what you want to do, but try and get the best experiences that you can. This can be through paid work, through some sort of assistantship, through the shadowing experience where you follow a professional around, through an internship, through a volunteer position, professional organization service, on and off campus. You just want to be sure that you get involved. I say that, but as a former overcommitment poster child who used to have to give talks to the other college students about how not to overcommit, you don't want to overcommit. So you want to selectively focus on a few high-quality experiences that genuinely interest you, and then you can provide your best effort at those experiences. Okay, so be selective. Also, develop relationships, positive relationships with your faculty, your coworkers, your supervisors, and maintain those. You'll need references, and it'll help if the faculty members know who you are, if your coworkers or supervisors see you in a good light. Job announcements are more likely to specify experience than a specific major at the entry level especially. So, we found in our recent study that, many of these jobs, even the entry level ones, were expecting 7 to 24 months of experience that's somehow related. They would specify that before they specify a particular major. So you want to be sure that you're doing something besides going to class if you're a student. I will say sometimes the saddest story for me is if I've got a student who has a perfect 4.0, but they literally have done nothing else but go to class. Now I'm struggling to find other things to write about, with their letters. So be sure that you do something else to get practical experience as well. It doesn't have to be paid experience necessarily. It can be volunteer experience. Even if you volunteer for 1 or 2 hours a week, you do that over the course of a year, that looks really good. Just get experience. I don't mean to harp on this, but it's really important when you actually start looking at the job announcements. Quickly, is all of your previous work experience directly related to the career that you eventually want, or is it directly related to the field of family science if you're not sure? I'm just going to give you just a few seconds to reply to this because I know we're getting short on time. Okay, looks like most people have replied now. Okay, so we're about, close to half it, about 60-40, close to 60-40. So most of us say no. But then a good chunk of people say yes. Everything that they've done up to this point is related to the career that they actually want. That's great. That'll be easy to tell the story. But even if you're no, don't worry. That's very common. I had a vast array of different types of experiences. But you know what? Everything is working with people somehow, directly or indirectly, and you can connect the dots, which is my last step for helping to market yourself. This is extremely, extremely important. You want to tell your story and tie it to the job that you're trying to get, or even if it's an internship or a scholarship or whatever it is. But especially for a job, you want to connect for the employer your past experience to that particular job. Don't assume that it's immediately obvious to them. Even if you're a person who all of your experience you feel has been related, do not assume that that relationship is automatically apparent to the employer. So you don't want to just be writing resumes and cover letters as if they're in a vacuum. You're just talking about yourself, but you're not connecting them to the specific position and the specific goals or mission of the organization. You've got to connect it. For instance, you might have had a previous experience as a daycare worker. Well, in that experience, you planned extra programs maybe for families or for the kids. You maybe occasionally assisted director with creating educational materials for parents. This might be a stepping stone to working in parent education in the future. Maybe you were a waiter, but hey, you also had to balance multiple demands in a fast-paced environment. You had to serve many different types of people, diverse people. You had to remain organized. You can provide examples of how you successfully manage conflicts. This might be a stepping stone to working with families or to working in case management. So if you see where I'm going here. So even if something is, you think it's related, still draw the relationship out. But if it's unrelated, it certainly helps them to connect the dots and highlight your skills and show them how your skills are related to this job that you're pursuing. Visit your institution's career services office for help on preparing cover letters and resumes before submitting. That could be a whole workshop. You could have a whole workshop on cover letters and a whole workshop on resumes in and of itself. So we don't have a lot of time for that today, but get the resource that you're paying for. If you are a current student or if you're an alum of a particular university or college, go back and get their career services to help you. If you're applying for a position of an academic nature, be sure that you also have a faculty member review your cover letter or your letter of interest, just because it tends to be a little bit of a different process in your CV as well before you submit it. Always, always, always have somebody to proofread your final draft, and preferably multiple people. And they should be looking for more than just grammatical issues. Again, ask them for feedback. Say, does it make sense? What my interest is in the position. Does it make sense how my previous experience would help me to be good for this particular job? So you want to try and show them the job announcement, then show them your materials and ask them, is there a connection there? Okay, and a final note before we start taking questions, I just want to encourage you, because I've been there as a stressed out person on the job market. Just resist the idea that you must have your career completely planned out, or resist the thinking that your first or your next job is going to be your only opportunity. It's like, you got one shot, and it makes it very stressful. It's very common to change jobs or even careers as your goals and values shift. So just look at this next experience that you're looking for, just take it one step at a time. So your current experience will just help to propel you to the next experience that you're going to have. And then that will help propel you to the next one. So just don't get stressed out during your job market search. That's the final note I want to leave you with. Thank you so much for your attention during this webinar. I know it was a lot of information. Hopefully you can go back and review if you want to revisit anything. But I'll definitely take questions now.
Thank you so much, Erica. That was just amazing. Just so much great information.
Right.
I'm really, really happy about how this came together. So we do have a couple questions. Our first one is sort of the golden question, I think. How do you explain what a family studies degree is during a job interview?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. So I think it would depend on the job. Okay, so you are still going to want to connect the dots in this situation. So, if you are going to a job where you're going to be directly working with families, then I would play up the fact that a family studies major provides me with a broad background on human development, so cradle to grave development of people. But then it also provides me with a background in terms of how families interact, how families function best, and what we can do to support families so that they can be successful in our societies and so that we can have strong communities. So I would really play that up if it's something where you'll be directly working with families. If it's something where you're not, well, it's hard to think about something where you're not working with them in some way. But if it's a different type of opportunity, then it's really going to depend on a specific job. And I'm happy to, answer questions via email about that. But you might need to play up the fact that, this has provided you with a basic understanding of how people and families and communities interact with one another, the types of things that people need in order to be successful and to improve their quality of life. It really depends on what position you are pursuing. So you want to really kind of think about how you can connect those dots. And again, I'm happy, like if you send me job announcements, I'll be happy to tell you how I would explain my degree in terms of that particular job announcement.
That's great. Thank you, Erica. Okay, next question is, do you have a recommended skills assessment?
I do. I have 2 that are in my Blackboard shells for my students, and I will post that. I'm trying to think of the best way. I will put that in the references page. So we're going to be posting a references page with this webinar, so I'll post it up there, but I will also post it on my website, drericajordan.com. I have a link to a different blog called HDFS Careers, and I will post it up there as well because I think that they're so helpful if you take it seriously. It's really helpful to help you articulate your skills to an employer. That can be difficult to do, so I'll post that.
Great. All right, we have about 4 minutes left and a few more questions. We can probably run over a couple minutes, but we have a few wrap-up slides that we need to do too. So I think what I'll do is ask these next, 2 questions. We'll go through the end of the slides just because there's some important information in those. And then if people want to stay on, and if Erica, if you've got a couple minutes, we can do a few more questions after that. Okay. So the next one we have is, I have a question about working for a business. I'm finishing my master's degree and have applied to many businesses as a research analysis or even UX researcher. However, they're not counting my RA experience as real experience. Do you have any suggestions on how to market academic research experience to businesses?
Oh, this is a good question. And I know somebody who is going through this right now. The best tip I think that I can give you is that if you happen to be associated with a university or college, or if not, if there's some other sort of career services in your area, you really want to take it to them because they will teach you how to frame your experience in terms of results. Businesses a lot of times like to see results-driven statements. So they don't just want to see that you engage in data analysis. There's a way to frame it so that you can kind of talk about the results that you had. And I don't mean the results of a research study. I mean like kind of the impact or results on your specific lab, what it enabled you all to do. But that's a tricky one. I will say, though, I can't think of any other way to say it other than they tend to speak a different language in the business world. And there are some organizations and some businesses who just flat out will not count that research experience. However, I think that there are a lot who will, but you need to be sure that you clearly communicate what you did and how it connects to what you will be doing in that specific job. So I would take that specific job announcement and your background to a career services professional who can help you to frame it that way. You also really want to it's very important that you're really succinct and get to the point, but there's kind of a results-driven orientation in the business world. I know that's a short answer to a very good question, but you could also email me if you want more.
Okay, that's excellent. Okay, so we have about at least 3 more questions, but I'm going to go through a couple slides here, and then we'll, once we've got that wrapped up, so we're keeping with our 1-hour commitment, but then if you want to stay on and Erica seems to have some time to talk with us, we can address the other questions. So let me just go through some of these. I just want to remind everybody that this webinar has been recorded, and so you'll get a link to the recording, and because this is a free webcast, feel free to share that link with anyone that you think would benefit from the presentation. We will be posting it on our website and making it accessible elsewhere. And it has been approved for continuing ed credit. So again, if you're interested in getting a certificate showing that you completed the webinar, you can contact Maddie Hansen. It's MADDIEHANSEN at ncfr.org, and the keyword is get a job. So share that with her. We have a bunch of upcoming webinars. I won't go through them all, but just look at those briefly there and check out our website. We've got a lot of really good information coming up that we want to share for both researchers, practitioners, and anyone really that's interested in family issues. And that's just kind of a slide, kind of the overview of the different categories of webinars that we do and some different webcasts as well. And then also we would love to hear from you if you have an idea for a webinar topic. If you're interested in presenting a webinar for NCFR, you can contact myself, Dawn, or Jennifer Crosswhite. I typically handle the practitioner-based webinars, and Jennifer does the research or faculty type webinars, but you can really contact either of us with any ideas that you have, and we will see what we can do about it. And then finally, let us know what you thought. It's people spend a lot of time. Obviously, Dr. Jordan has spent a good amount of time preparing this, and it's just really nice to get some feedback. How did you do? What topics? What questions you have? Just any feedback? It's just really helpful to have that. So we really encourage you. The survey is literally about 3 questions. It'll take you less than a minute, but the feedback is really, really welcome. So please let us know what you thought. Okay, so we still have a number of questions, so let's go through those, and you can sign off at any time, but we'll see what we can do about answering some of these questions. So the next one we have is, where would you say the most stable jobs are?
Oh, that's a good question, and that is also a good point that I wanted to address. I mean, you have to think about, in terms of your personal goals, do you want stability or do you want sometimes you can have a higher salary with less stability. I have some friends who make probably 8 times my salary, but they have to be very comfortable with getting fired if they have a bad sales quarter. So in terms of stability, I guess, well, first of all, I resist the idea that there's ever really a safe job, but there's certainly some that seem to be a little bit more stable than others. Some positions in higher education, I actually think sometimes staff positions could actually be even a little bit more stable than faculty positions. But still, faculty positions, certainly after you get tenure, can have a lot of stability. Some positions in healthcare are stable. And then, some positions with the government are also going to be stable. That's kind of a difficult question to answer, only because it really depends on that specific organization or that government or that business. But I guess if I'm thinking about stability, those are the top 3 that come to mind. Yeah, that would be it. Great. But, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. Okay, another one. Thanks for all your information. I'm from Colombia, South America, and I'm studying at Brigham Young University's online program. I'm planning to teach in undergraduate program. What kind of master's should I take into account?
I think this probably means master's degree. Master's degree? Okay.
Yeah.
You want to teach? So. Okay. If you want to teach in an undergraduate program and you're looking at master's degrees, it'll depend on where you want to live. If you primarily plan to teach at the master's level, you could just do a family science, so kind of like a human development and family studies master's degree. Now, I'm going to tell you, but I also will say that there sometimes are more opportunities in terms of teaching if you have a broader graduate degree. So you could also maybe consider like a broader psychology degree, but you would want to go to a psychology program that has a special emphasis where people are doing work related to families if you're interested in that. But sometimes it can be helpful to have a more general degree if you're going to be teaching, because then you can market yourself for psychology departments. Like I worked previously for a psychology department teaching child development and human development. But now I work for a human development and family studies program teaching specifically about family studies. So you can kind of market yourself in a little bit broader way if you have a broader degree. So I think psychology is probably a good one. I would also I'd be remiss if I didn't say, you might want to consider a PhD as well, just because the academic job market is becoming so flooded, and you're going to be most competitive with a PhD, even though I know it takes a lot longer. Even for community colleges, which historically have hired more master's level instructors, it's becoming more competitive even in that arena as well. And if you go for the PhD, again, you'd be looking specifically at human development and family studies, or something like, I don't know your interest, but maybe you're interested in child development or aging studies, or psychology, or there's some broader ones related to kind of psychology. So the names will depend on a specific. Unfortunately, the names vary a lot, which is really frustrating. So you have to kind of do the legwork on Google and really explore programs with those names and similar names. They will vary a lot, though.
Excellent. Okay, next question. Regarding research-focused careers, can you provide additional details for family study majors whom are interested?
Yeah, so if you're interested in research, I think you can go a few different ways. So a few things jump out to me. First of all, certainly you can have a research career as an academician, as a faculty member, as a research faculty member. So that goes without saying. And I think any of your faculty members can talk to you about that, pursuing that research career. But then you also can sometimes find opportunities within universities that have extension offices. Sometimes they will employ sole people where the only thing they do is they do research. And while other people are out kind of delivering programs and services, but they're doing research to help kind of get grants. And by the way, if you have any opportunity to work on research or grants now, start collecting that if you haven't already. Also, some of the larger nonprofits, maybe even some of the smaller ones, but I know for sure, like some of the larger nonprofit agencies like childtrends.org, they're always hiring researchers, either research scientists or research analysts. Even some organizations, other related organizations like 0 to 3, they also sometimes hire researchers. And then also there is just the private sector. So the for-profit business sector, we've got some major who I haven't been able to track down yet, but there's somebody who works for like an eHarmony type or Match.com type of thing, where they're doing research on those algorithms that they use, presumably, for that matchmaking service. So is that something that you're interested in? It sounds kind of fun to me. But businesses that, they are marketing services or market products to families, they're also going to be interested in that. Finally, the military sometimes also will employ some researchers. It just depends. So there are a few ideas for you.
Excellent. Okay, a couple more questions, and then let's see. When choosing a doctorate level degree program, how do I select the best one?
Oh, that's a great question too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you are looking specifically in the field of human development and family studies, Claire Camp Dush has on her website, she's at Ohio State. I'm pulling it up right now, but she has a ranking, I think the only really comprehensive ranking of HDFS graduate programs. Claire Camp. I'm going to just type her name in this message box. And you can go to her blog, and she has, am I not able to send? Oh, there we are. Okay. She has a ranking system that she has used to rank programs. I might be able to find that direct ranking too if I take a second here. But so that's one way. It's difficult because like U.S. News and World Report, they rank education programs, they rank like law programs, business programs, but it feels like ours, they don't really have a very, a very narrow ranking. So it can be difficult. So hers, I think, that's probably going to be my best bet. And I did find that actual web address, so I'm just going to post it right here in this chat box, broadcast it to everybody. That's a good way. Also, just recommendation, word of mouth. But, okay, there's some key telltale signs in some of the strongest programs. First of all, you want to see that they have adequate funding. And, most PhD programs, specifically not necessarily PsyD, but most PhD programs, they need to be offering some sort of funding. They're usually only accepting a small group of people, and they're usually going to have some sort of funding package, that includes your tuition and assistantship. I would be a little suspicious if they don't offer any funding. You can always send it to me. I'll take a look at it. I would be a little suspicious. So that's one thing to look for. But then also what's most important at that doctoral level is you want to look at the faculty members and see what type of work they are doing at that specific university and at that specific program. So you want to look at which faculty members would I be interested in working with them? Who would I be interested in assisting in their research? Because trust me, in a doctoral program, you're probably going to be assisting with that faculty member's research. And if it's not something you're interested in, that's a bad position to be in for, 4 to 7 years. So you want to be very clear about, what they're doing. Do your homework. It takes a lot of legwork. But sometimes the best PhD program or the best doctoral program is going to vary from person to person. If there's somebody who's doing research on adolescents and they're a very strong researcher, that's going to be the best one for you, but it might not be the best one for your friend who's very interested in aging studies, working with senior population. Also, if you're very interested in kind of more applied, hands-on field, then you might want to be looking for, you want to see that application piece is there, that it's a very, you're going to be getting a lot of applied experiences, not just research experiences as well. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. You have so much great information. Okay, we're going to do one. Yeah, it's just awesome. Okay, with one more, I'm going to do one more question, then we'll wrap it up. And just really, really want to thank you, Erica, for your time and expertise. I think you definitely know what you're talking about, and it's obvious that there's a lot of interest in these topics. And so hopefully maybe NCFR can do some other kind of follow-up webinars to some of these issues, because I think there's a need. So our last question is, do you have any tips for how to bridge that gap between our family studies field and the business world? This gap seems to come up more and more.
Yeah, it is going to depend on the specific job that you're interested in working in within business. Some is going to be, some opportunities it will be easier to bridge the gap. If you're going to be somehow working directly with families or serving families in the business world, it's going to be easier to make the connection. You just kind of point out your expertise and your training and your experience. Remember that experience piece, and the connection will be easier. If not, like if you're going to be working more behind the scenes, then you've got to really sell to the business how your background knowledge, how your understanding of human development and how families interact, what families need, what types of stressors families face, what types of services would be helpful to families and also helpful to the bottom line for the company. You're going to have to really spend some time thinking about that and communicating it effectively and, unfortunately, succinctly. So one thing we don't do in academia very well all of the time is teach you how to be super concise. But in the business world, a lot of times the application materials are going to be very brief. A short cover letter, short resume, and you've got to convey all of this really in a short amount of space. So my top tip, again, would probably be to go to visit career service. They tend to be pretty well versed in this because you need to frame your experience and frame your knowledge in terms of the types of results that business is going to be interested in. Often they're going to be interested in what's going to help their bottom line. So even if it's something where you would be working for the business supporting families of employees, they still want to know, like, how is this going to be beneficial for the company, and how is your knowledge and your background going to help you to better serve the employees, or how does your knowledge help them to better understand their customer? So I would spend some time really talking with a professional, about a career services professional, about how to best craft your experience and your story so that they understand it.
Excellent. I'm just going to throw in one other thing here. This is Dawn.
Okay.
Just to think about the association world. So NCFR is an association. There is an association for everything. Every possible business and profession you can think of, there's probably an association for it. And I think it's often a missed, it's just a best kept secret as far as where to find jobs. And it's not, you might not work directly with families through that association, but you can probably find, like, if you're interested in families and housing, there's an association. There's likely in every state an association that deals with housing issues. And having someone on their staff that can bring a family perspective, and you may likely start at an entry-level position, and you might be doing events or receptionist or administrative assistant, things that aren't directly relating with the family, but you're getting experience tied into that. And also, you can meet people that work in the field. So, these are people the organizations that serve families in some way or that are somehow connected. You can get those connections. And this is not a really great explanation because I'm trying to go quickly, but I've often thought about how, like, I started in a housing association, did a certification program for apartment managers and maintenance, which had nothing to do with my psychology degree or my interest in serving families. But I really liked the association work, but I wanted to work with families. And lo and behold, there was a job for a certification director with NCFR. And so that's a good example, I think, of sort of the roundabout way that you end up many times in your dream. I mean, I'm obviously in my dream job. I've been here for a really long time, and I love it. And it gives me a chance to work with families or for families in a way that I never would have thought of. So just wanted to put that out there to think about associations. And I can talk more if people have questions about that, because obviously kind of threw that out quickly without a lot of clear explanation probably. But I do think good. Okay, it's a missed opportunity. I think just a ton of options for people in the association world. So
I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I think that your example illustrates 2 points. First of all, yes, all these associations, we have NCFR, but I know 0 to 3 is one that I used to follow a lot. They hire, they have opportunities. And so certainly seeking out job opportunities. But then also thank you for sharing your example about how things that you do not necessarily think will be related to your ultimate work goal, end up being related or helping to propel you. So, that your previous experience in housing helped to propel you to NCFR, so I really appreciate that.
Yep. I remember saying to my husband, I wish I could find an association that worked with families. Like, what are the odds? And then, like, 2 months later, there was NCFR. So you never know. You never know. Well, Erica, thank you so much. This has been just wonderful. We really appreciate all your time. And thank you all for being part of this webinar and for all your awesome questions. This has been a great conversation. And hopefully we'll do more of those. Yes, we have just a quick little thing. Wisconsin Council of Family Relations. There's associations everywhere. That's right. Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you all very much. And this will end this webinar.
Thank you all.